Hello, wealth hackers. Welcome to the Truth About Real Estate Investing show. And my name is Erwin Cito, and we are here to share the truths about real estate investing. Happy Family Day. Happy belated Family Day. For my fellow Ontarians, happy Strike Day and PA Days. I do have to start off by saying I'm grateful for my public schools, teachers, and provincial government when I was a kid. We had a lot more labor peace when I was going to school, and because of it, I know how to ski. My parents didn't ski, so it was up to our public school to take us skiing and organize our lessons. I mentioned this because I'm just getting back from a 4-day weekend that included yet another PA day and family day at a friend's cottage in Huntsville. I'm not a fan of winter, cold, but I enjoy winter sports and being outdoors. More importantly, I want my kids to be active and knowing how to ski so they can ski with their friends when they're older. Cherry and my wife signed the kids up for lessons, and they both did great. Cherry got lessons too, as I think this is maybe her third time on skis. And I recommend lessons to anyone who's new. No different than getting some really good structured advice, teaching, learnings, and anything that you find really important. No different than investing in real estate or things like stock hacking. I would get lessons too, but I'm just too cheap and too lazy to call and book a lesson. This isn't advice. This is just my own experience and thinking out loud. Seriously, my frugalness has no bounds. Learning to ski as an adult is way harder, as I was spending a lot of time around instructors, just being around sharing, being around the kids. When you're bigger as an adult, we have larger mass. Gravity pulls us down the hill faster, and our higher center of gravity makes balance harder, and our falls much worse. We have farther to fall than kids do. My kids fell down, and they didn't even complain. It's they're all padded up, and they're falling on snow, which is pretty soft. Okay, warning, proud parent moment. My eldest child, Robin, was phenomenal. I've posted the link to the Instagram video on the show notes. And if you're following me on Instagram, you've probably already seen it. By the second day, she was skiing down the entire runs independently. No one was holding her. Versus the first day I not held her, but I kind of held her between my legs, or I skied backwards while holding her hands. So by the second day, she was skiing down hills entirely independently. By the third day, her instructor was impressed by her abilities. So she was already starting to learn how to do parallel turns, and we even rode the red chairlift a few times, which is significant to her and in general because the red chairlift was that was the first time she hadn't been on the red chairlift before, because the blue chairlift was where all the beginners went to learn to ski. So she was moving away from the beginner ski hill. Again, I posted the video on Instagram in case you want to see it on my personal account. While riding the chairlift together, it was just the two of us, my daughter and I. We had some time to chat alone. I explained to Robin how proud of her I was. She was proud, so she started talking proud as well, that she was better than her mother, which she is. I explained to her that she's better than I was at her age as well, but she needed to be brought down back to earth. I recounted for her how she just had 3 1-hour private lessons over 3 days in her own equipment. Her mom and dad never had the same privilege. None of her 4 grandparents ski nor took us skiing, so I learned how to ski in group classes at an older age on school trips. So we'd go once a year. I got a group lesson once a year. Versus again, she had 3 private lessons over 3 days. I asked her if she thought group classes or private lessons was better, and which cost more. She replied with the correct answer. I told her it's the same with her private swim lessons. She's in private swim lessons as well. She used to be in group lessons. Her performance is considerably better after private lessons. I don't think that should be a surprise to anyone. And I let her know that her parents did not have the same opportunity. Her parents, as in Cherry and I, we did not have the same opportunity, which is part of the reason why she's a better skier than we were. She's also much braver than her parents and her grandparents, so that's on her. I have no idea where she gets that from. She's fearless. It's kind of cool to see. This coming Friday is another strike day. So if you're an early downloader of this podcast, I'll be skiing with my daughter as you're listening to this. She'll have a lesson. I won't. And hopefully Cherry has recovered from her face plants from this past weekend to keep up with us. She too is taking another lesson. Stock hacking update. For those who've followed on this podcast for a while, you know I've been stock hacking since September, but I didn't have much funds or time to focus on this until after the conference. Cherry deliberately held back on my funding until after the conference so I could focus on what was important. FYI, our next conference is tentatively November 7th. We're just waiting to sign a contract for the venue. Otherwise, tentatively November 7th, 2020 will be our next conference. It will likely be bigger, but I digress. So to update you on my stock hacking, I haven't forgotten. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm actually very proud, and I'm sharing with anyone who'll listen that I am averaging 11% over the last 11 weeks. February was especially good. For those who are following the market, I think you know why around coronavirus. And I'm looking to improve on these gains as well as I've taken an advanced course, and I've also since hired a coach. Investing in the stuffs that make me money, yeah, I'm game to invest in that over things like ski lessons. Note that 11% return on investment is a gross return, and that return is sitting as cash in my account. I can spend these returns. Understandably, I am extremely happy with these results, and I'm inspired by the success of the students of the Stock Hacker Academy. Stay tuned for the next course offering. I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to the fans of this podcast for attending our free training classes on the #1 real estate investment strategy. We just had our fourth last week, our fourth sold out class, and it's only mid-February. We've done yeah, that's pretty wild. We've done 4 classes already, all sold out, and the year isn't even 7 weeks old. I'm especially honored by the attendees who made it all the way from Ottawa, Ontario to attend the class. FYI, for those who don't know this geography, totally understandable. It is a 5-hour drive in good traffic from Ottawa, Ontario to where we were delivering the course in Mississauga. And another young lady chose to fly in from Ottawa for this free training class. I'm obviously honored and humbled that folks find these classes this valuable, that they're willing to spend this amount of time and money to come see us. Sometimes I do forget to appreciate the quite a bit of vast amount of knowledge that's been shared on this podcast, and the amount of quality that we're able to deliver in those 90 minutes that is the free training class. It was super awesome to meet these fans of the podcast, take selfies together, and these classes are free for now, and I personally attend them for now. So if you do want to come by, say hi at a future event and learn the #1 investment strategy in real estate that is practiced by pretty much all the investors I know, including today's guest, then you'll want to sign up at www.investortraining.ca/free class. Again, that's www.investortraining.ca/free class. Of course, the link is in the show notes and also on our website at truthaboutrealestateinvesting.ca. So speaking of #1 investment strategies, this week's guest has done plenty of basement apartments. He's done a few dozen of them over the last few years. His name is Ryan Carr. He's a full-time real estate investor who's big on the math of real estate. What folks may not know is that Ryan runs his business in a highly calculated manner. Hence, I wanted Ryan to be on the show to share. From leaving his job as a mechanic to be a full-time investor, to hiring several full-time staff to execute his sizable construction projects, to scaling up his business to around a dozen or more property acquisitions per year. Not just acquisitions, though. He actually has pretty much all of his projects require quite significant renovations and construction, especially those infill developments. And these types of properties include multifamily, infill development, tiny homes, coach houses, and vertically split townhouses, duplexes. I'm likely missing some. Ryan has a great business. I think many could model his how to build and scale their own businesses. So without further ado, I give you Ryan Carr.
Yeah, we bought an office, right?
Did you?
Yeah. Oh, I didn't tell you. Damn.
No.
It's been too long.
It's been a bit, yeah.
When was the last time when was our last meeting? Early December?
I missed the last one.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
How
it
are you
was in
feeling?
December. I was sick. I'm better now. But dude, I lost my voice. So I was out shoveling snow and I just kind of felt this tickle in my throat. And within a couple hours, I had absolutely no voice. Like no words were coming out.
Oh.
It was the weirdest feeling.
Oh, okay. I thought you got sick on vac. Oh, wait. Is that before you went to Winnipeg?
This was slightly before and during
Oh,
and then proceeding after as well.
so much to cover.
Oh man.
Okay. Uh, so we put in an offer. We put in an offer early December,
Yep.
December, like the first week of December on
Mhm.
4,000 square feet.
Nice.
So it's still conditional. It'll be a great story for the podcast
Mm.
because it is so good to be Canadian. So actually, this could be for good interest of you. Um, the Business Development Bank of Canada,
Mhm.
uh, they will finance 100%. If
100%.
Isn't
Yep.
that crazy?
That's amazing.
Here's what also is part of this crazy is we don't need all that space. Half of the space is already rented out to to doctors.
Yep.
So then their rent will pay down 45% of the mortgage or whatnot. But
Yeah.
because whatever percentages that we're occupying, that's enough that they will still finance it 100%.
Man. Good for you. That's amazing. What do they call it? The principal residence of your business or
Something like that.
principal place
This
of
only
business.
works because we're moving in because
Yes.
we are occupying the space ourselves.
Yeah,
This wouldn't
that's
work
great.
if you're buying for investment entirely and not using it yourself.
Mhm.
I guess it's the same thing with residential. Like you get the best deals, the best financing. You can do 5% down, for example, if you're moving in.
Yep.
Versus it's different when you're not moving in. But yeah, grateful to be Canadian.
Fantastic. For the viewers at home, how do you qualify that as a borrower?
It's because of cherished practice.
Yep.
Uh, just think how a lender looks at anything.
Mhm.
How good are you or your businesses as a borrower?
Good. Good.
So accounting practices are considered favorable borrowers.
Yeah.
So as long as you yeah, so it's based on that, and also my real estate business as well. So
Mhm.
all those things combined, yeah,
Awesome.
100%. So
Yeah.
if anyone doesn't have, because we have credit issues just like everybody else. We have, as in like we've bought so many properties, we have extreme difficulty getting more mortgages, even
Mhm.
lines of credit.
Yeah.
But here we get 100% financing.
Voila.
Yeah, it's a
Man,
bit more
it's amazing.
expensive.
It's
It's like 4 or
amazing.
5%, but
Yeah.
still, it's 100% financing.
Where are you going to go to borrow from anybody at 4% other
The
than an
government.
institution, right? Yeah. Like amazing.
Don't you love the government? I'm gonna stop
Great.
talking bad about the government.
That's great. That's great. Pay your taxes, boys and girls.
Yes, everyone else pay your
They'll give you
taxes so I can borrow
cheap
money.
financing. Yeah.
'Cause have you looked into getting office space for yourself? Because you're
You know,
busy, you're growing, you're up there.
yeah. So I'm looking into that now.
Mhm.
So it's funny that you ask. I've got a property in Durham, and it's on a really, really large lot. And I'm looking to rezone that property to either do multifamily residential or condos or severances and things like that. But the house that's on there now, as per our current zoning in this particular location, we can actually use a portion of the house for office space. So what I was thinking about doing was converting that house into office space, using it as the sales center in addition to office for my staff, and then start to run some of my deals from there to and from until such time that we develop it and repurpose the property itself.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, to give the listener some context, can you share how many projects you did in 2019?
Yeah. So I don't know. It was anywhere between 7 and 12, depending on how you calculate, right? So
Okay.
like in terms of like starts and finishes, it's not always the same way. Like I don't always start a project in one year and finish it in the same.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I mean, on average, I'm typically buying a house a month. If we averaged it out, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less,
Hmm.
right? But 10 to 12 deals a year is kind of my sweet spot. 6 to 12 deals, somewhere in there, depending on the size and complexity.
Right.
And then that varies in terms of rezoning, severances, new construction, basement apartments, flips, things like that.
Hmm. Because you do deals other than just houses,
Yeah,
like that lakefront property, for example.
that's right. That's right. So that one's a multifamily building.
Hmm.
And that one there, like when you say how many deals do you do in a year? Well, it's hard to quantify that because that's a 2-year project.
Right. Right. And
You
how
know
many
what I
doors
mean?
is that one? Just to paint a picture for the listener, like what it is about.
Yeah, so that's a 14 unit right on the Bay of Quinte, which is an extension of Lake Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to turn the building over, get some of the tenants out. Of the 14 units, we could do half of the property at one time, and now we've gone back to do the other half of the property
Mm-hmm.
because of the way that it was broken up in different buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like that's it's a $500,000 reno, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that takes time to pull off and get everybody on the same program and permits and fees and all this stuff. So yeah, it's been a great one. We're looking to refi that soon.
How far away was that from your core business area?
That was about an hour away from my core business area.
Hour drive.
Hour drive, yeah.
So who did you have work on it? Did you send your people? You hired locally?
Initially, I sent a crew out from Oshawa, right, which is typically where I invest, as you know. I sent a crew out there, and this was my first multifamily building that I've done, right?
Mm.
So I wanted to really feel out the process in terms of how does it work, how does it finance, what are all the logistical constraints,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I started off by sending a crew out that was local that I kind of knew and understood, but I quickly realized that the transportation to and from their home base, it's too cumbersome on the guys, right? So now I'm very much of the opinion that you should hire locally because A, they're closer to the job site, and B, they know people in the area. They know the realtors, they know the people that work at the city, they know, they just know the general area.
Mm-hmm.
And I've since found a second crew that's taken over for the people that I had actually let go because they weren't working out. And that crew's local, and they've been amazing. So
Fantastic.
yeah, all hands on deck out there.
Excellent. That's actually a really good point I want the listener to pick up on is you hired local. I've seen, it's funny, like I've seen, let's pick on the big guys. Let's pick on the big guys. Some like named developers will or who are building and selling condos in Hamilton, for example, will hire let's call it a big city firm that's not local.
Yeah.
And then they screw it up.
Yeah.
They screw up the marketing. And I'm just, they because they're from a different city, they bring their team to Hamilton and no one's impressed, especially the owner. Especially the owner. So,
yeah. Local knowledge is huge.
Yeah. If you don't know, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. The big thing for me was I just thought as I'm going through this process, like if we have a set of contractors that come in from an hour away, they do the job, and then they leave. That's great. But what happens if I want to do another project out that way? Mm-hmm. Who am I going to lean on then? Right? What happens if I have a maintenance call? Who am I going to lean on then? Like the people that are an hour? No,
mm-hmm.
Not really.
No,
it doesn't work that way. So definitely go local realtors, local construction, local everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what's your thought? Will you continue looking for projects in that city? You'll still look for projects an hour away from Oshawa?
I will. I think the economics there are good. What I like about it is just like Toronto, like if you go from Toronto to Durham, the prices are about half, right? And then if you go to Durham to anywhere out east, the prices go about half again, right? So your dollars go a lot further, and rents are disproportionately, they go down disproportionately versus the values of the homes as you go further east or further west away from the city, like from the downtown core, right? So like if a 2-bedroom in Bowmanville or Oshawa rents for $1,400, maybe out in Belleville it's renting for $1,200, but the price of housing is like half. So on a rent ratio, it's favorable for sure. Right. And if you can build that system out there and make it efficient, then it makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you give an example? So, what's the name of the city?
It's Belleville.
Where your 14 plexes?
Just outside of Belleville. Yeah.
Just outside Belleville.
Yeah.
I've been hearing Belleville come up a couple times recently.
Yeah.
I've heard some they have some serious housing shortages.
They have it out there just like we do in the GTA. It's everywhere.
Don't they have lots of land? Or they can't just build it fast enough?
They do. Okay, so when you're building, right, developers are the last people in and the first guys to leave because the price of housing needs to be at a certain price point to substantiate the cost of lumber. Yeah. Right. So you go to Belleville and you buy a house for $250,000, like that's the cost of a piece of dirt. You can't build that, right? Bricks and sticks are the same in Belleville as they are in Toronto. Yeah. Give or take the labor market. But I mean, a 2x4 there or here is identical. So,
yeah. Same with cost of labor. It's
that's it.
not that far apart.
That's it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the whole reason you're there is because you can buy housing, you can buy resale housing for cheap. So what developer wants to get in? They don't want to build houses for cheap.
It's unbelievable. Like you go out there and buy a whole house for the cost of a down payment in Toronto. Right?
Yeah,
like you own the whole thing, cash.
Yeah.
If that's what your goal is, right? It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I just had Ming Lim on just a few days ago, and he's saying renovation budgets start at 400,000.
Yeah.
You'll be there one day though, because he's talking about triplexes. So you'll probably be there one day in Oshawa, where the renovation starts at 400,000.
Yeah, hey, I believe it. I do.
Yeah, I know you believe it. Where to go next? Because you do so much. Okay, so it comes up a lot because it's New Year. All these people talking about becoming full time in real estate.
Yeah, go do it.
Are you getting a lot of questions around that too?
That would be one of my main questions that I get.
Okay.
Yeah, amongst a few other things is I want to be full time in real estate.
Yeah.
How did you do it? What's your story? What's your background? Things like that. So yeah, man, for sure.
What are the other top questions?
Top questions are people looking for yield, construction costs, construction budget, because not only am I my own GC, but I'm also the investor. I can kind of play both sides of the coin. So a lot around that, different techniques in the market, the actual mechanics of how things really work, not just like, not like the high level information that you'd get from like a Rich Dad Poor Dad type of book, but like, hey, how do we actually pull this off? How do we actually do those techniques in the market? So I get a lot of that too.
Mechanics around construction, or like negotiating deals, like that kind of mechanics, or
absolutely. So the construction is one component to it. The actual investment side of it as well. I've shown you the napkin numbers thing so many times. I always relate back to that because like that is just a good way for people to do a quick back of the napkin calculation on how to do this stuff. So yeah, all kinds of stuff like that.
Can you elaborate on the napkin math? What's the formula?
Yeah. So back when I started doing real estate, I've been doing it full time for like 6 or 7 years now, since 2012 on and off, and then 2014 full time. I realized quite quickly that I kept doing the same numbers over and over and over to the point that by the time I boiled down like 100 deals, I realized, okay, this is the formula for me. So I take 4 line items that we need to know. One is the resale price, one is the construction cost, one is the carrying cost, and then one is the purchase price. Right? And then I work out these 4 things in a systematic fashion, like literally on the back of a napkin. I had it printed on cocktail napkins, right? And by the time we know those 4 things, in rough format, out comes a positive or negative number that will get you to where you need to be.
Don't you have a website for this?
I don't even think it's on my website. I talk about it all the time, but I don't think it's up there. It's up on YouTube though. I just uploaded a whole 18 videos, snippet clips on a speech that I recently did. So go to YouTube and hammer in my name. It's there.
Share for the folks what your name is.
I am Ryan Carr of RW Carr Investment.
Carr with 2 R's.
2 R's.
Not like the vehicle.
That's it.
So the number one question you get seems to be free about full-time real estate.
Yeah.
So you do things a lot different than a lot. No, sorry. I wouldn't say a lot different. Let's just share how you do things. For example, you have how many teams do you have of renovators?
Right now I have 2 crews. I fluctuate between 1 and 3 depending on the volume.
And then who's on a crew?
Who's on a crew? So most of my guys focus on the interior side of the renovation. So kitchen, bath, flooring, paint, interior waterproofing, basement framing, structural framing, things like that. If I go and build a new house, for example, I would sub out anything related to the structure of the house. So like the guys would do that, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, things like that. But my guys in-house handle all the interiors.
Cool.
Yeah.
How many people is that? How many people on a crew?
I've got full-time staff of 5. And on my crew, I typically like to run between 2 and 3 guys plus a co-op student. That's my average go-to crew. And then on the subcontracted crews, they come with whoever they need to come with on a daily basis.
Okay, let's get into some of the nuts and bolts.
The mechanics, as they say?
The mechanics? I don't know. Some of the details, drill in a little bit.
Yeah,
because these are employees of yours, so they're T4 employees.
T4 staff.
Yeah. And what else comes with that? Workman's comp,
Yeah, a ton.
guy.
A ton of overhead comes with that. So and risk. So I did a video with Matt McKeever about a year ago,
Uh-huh.
and we were talking about subcontracted versus T4 employees, right?
Mhm.
And we broke it down. But the basics of it are, if you feel that you have enough volume to keep a full-time crew of however many people you feel, 3 people, right?
Mhm.
To have a full-time crew of 3 busy for at least an entire year,
Mhm.
and then you can always be ahead of them. Like I'm always working 6 months ahead. Then it
Mhm.
makes sense to do it, right? If
Stay
you
6
feel that,
months.
yeah, if you feel that you can manage those people effectively, and you know how to talk the talk of whatever business you're in, doesn't matter if you're an accountant or
Mhm.
a contractor or whatever, right? Like if you can make sure you can guide those people to where you want them to go, then it
Mhm.
makes sense to have full-time T4 staff.
Mhm. So let's go the other direction. What if
All
you want to
right.
be all 4-hour work week? Can you just outsource all this?
Ooh, if you want to be 4-hour work week, you get the most expensive crew you can and pay them well.
What happens if you don't?
Then you're going to be a manager, and you're not going to have a 4-hour work week anymore.
This is brutally honest, folks. I'm talking to the listener, not you.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I find almost everyone is shortcutting a lot of things in business, in real estate investing. Is they think they can 4-hour work week things. You know, they'll often the first beginner mistake is they'll just take the lowest bid
Yeah.
on a rental job. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, now I'll do my 4-hour work week. I've hired somebody. I've done my job.
Mhm. Mhm. Man, it's tough. Like when I first started, I was doing all the construction myself, which is where I learned how to talk the talk, right? And
Mhm.
then as I grew, I brought on more people, and then I was like, okay, now it makes sense to hire T4 staff, and it just sort of grew and grew and grew. I always like to keep my business relatively lean.
Mhm.
I don't like a lot of overhead.
Mhm.
Debt is one thing with respect to the properties, but in terms of being like management heavy, I don't like that.
Mhm.
Right? I don't like that. So um, when I hired these guys, I really had to drill down on the numbers and say, okay, can I work ahead? How much time am I going to spend managing? What happens if something goes wrong? Where does it fall back on? What's it going to cost me? All of these things start running through your head and through your mind. And like, yeah, you got to weigh out the benefits and the costs of saying, okay, yes, I want in-house staff, or I'm going to sub everything out to an outsourced crew
Mhm.
and pay that crew whatever it costs to do that job. So there's always pros and cons to both.
Right. And I've
Yeah.
gone down the path of 4-hour work because I have a full-time gig, right?
Yeah.
And even though I do hire a high end, I still find stuff whenever I go visit,
Absolutely.
right? For example, one of my tenants told me that a new wall that we had installed, it's not stopping the noise transfer.
Mm-hmm.
So I had my handyman open it up, and it's not insulated, like,
Oh,
right? You know, but the tenant
yeah.
told me, how come it got to me, right? And these
Yeah,
things still happen, right?
they
Like,
do.
I'm missing a handrail on the front step,
Mm-hmm.
right? I noticed it, like when no one else noticed it.
Yeah.
You know, the property manager, contractor, nobody noticed it,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So it's like I don't know anyone who can successfully step away completely.
Nobody cares about your business like you do.
Yeah,
Bottom line, doesn't matter how much you pay somebody or pay a manager or whatever,
yeah,
right? At the end of the day, the puck stops with you. That's it.
yeah. We're not
Yeah.
really selling the dream, are we?
You know what though? Like you got to look long term. You got to look short term, long term. You got to say, okay, how much work do I want to put into this,
Hmm.
and what do I want to get back out? Like
Hmm.
if you want truly passive 4-hour work week income,
Hmm.
go lend capital, go flip 10 houses, make yourself $1 million or whatever it is, and lend it out, and you collect mailbox money every single month.
Hmm.
I honestly, truly, genuinely believe that is the only way right now, at least in all of my experiences, that you're going to have fully passive income with
Hmm.
very, 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 very ultra low management.
Hmm.
Lending money. That's it.
I'm paranoid, dude. About like lending money. I
Yeah,
like if it was me, I still need to see the property and stuff like that. I'll
sure,
probably check in because I'm
sure.
just paranoid like that.
Yeah. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's still relatively passive. So you
Hmm.
spend an hour, you bomb back and forth in Hamilton or wherever you want to invest
Hmm.
and and check out that person's deal. But like if you're into construction and moving parts and doing deals and transactional costs and all that stuff, like things go wrong.
Hmm.
Anytime you have movement, things can go wrong.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
That's it. That's how you manage
So let's clarify that 10 properties, 10 flips thing and make $1 million.
it.
Is that what you're making on your flips?
pick a number. Like I've flipped houses anywhere from, I think I had one that went kind of shitty for $5,000. and anywhere up to like 150,000.
Right.
So that's been my range. 150 was the top end. So average flip, I don't know, 40 grand, 50 grand, something like that. 10% of the after repair value is a pretty good standard way for somebody to ballpark what they should make on a deal. It's a good place to start.
And then one component that you do different than that most people don't realize is how do you raise the money?
Yeah, so for me, I've done the majority of my deals just by way of good buys and good technique. So I've been largely self-financed, which has been great. Do a couple flips, do a buy and hold. Do a couple flips, do a buy and hold. That's how I kind of got started. When I got jammed up at the bank at one point earlier on in my career, then I took on a partner, and it was interesting because very few people actually asked me that question. And when I first got started, I'd bought 2 houses with the money that I had, right? And then I couldn't get over that hump to get to the 3rd house. But at that time, CIBC was qualifying investors based on how many houses you had. And if you had 3 or more, they saw you as like a professional investor. And if you had 2 or less, then they DCR'd your portfolio different, right? So I actually took joint title on the 3rd property with a partner so that I could get over that 3rd property hump. And then all of a sudden they looked at my portfolio different and I could carry on. Now things are a lot different, but that's how I first got started into multiple properties was, okay, how's the bank going to see this? And let's use the bank's rules and work within that. Yeah.
Can you share how the split went? Equity, cash flow, was it just a fixed rate?
That one there was a 50-50 split. So they put up all the money, I did all the work, and then any profits or losses got split 50-50 moving forward.
Including 50-50 on the renovation budget?
Nope, they put up all the money.
So that's ideal.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, like if you're, for a lot of people, if you're going to go and do the work as a property expert, there needs to be something in it for you, just like there has to be something in it for the investor as well, right? So, I mean, if I'm going to put up half the money, I might as well just put up all the money and just go keep it for myself.
Yeah, keep all the equity.
Exactly. Like JV partners are great, and they have certain times they should be deployed and certain times not. So you got to pick and choose your battles. But I mean, yeah, if you're going to give up half your equity, and you should get paid for that. Absolutely.
So I need to ask this because or else you're just going to be inundated with requests to give you money and to get half the deal. Are you still doing those deals 50-50?
I take on the right strategic partners.
I got it.
I look for relationship first.
Got it.
I've been approached by a few people, and they're like, "Hey, I got all this money, but I don't think they're a good person." So I don't even venture down that path. Right? I don't want your money if you're not a good person. If you're a good person and like you're wholesome at heart and you've got some good morals and you know you're a good person, then yeah, I definitely look at that.
Cool. Can I give you money? No, I'm kidding. You don't have to answer that. I don't think I've had you back since the tiny house finished.
Yeah, maybe not.
So I think the last time I had you on, you were still in the process of selling it. I think the original sale had fallen through. It disappeared. Can you share that story actually? So let's start with, okay, so for the listeners' benefit, go back and listen to that episode. Just search on my website, Tiny House, and you'll find that episode when I had Ryan share his what he was doing with his investment with the tiny house. And then if I recall correctly, just correct me if I'm wrong, you had sold the tiny house and then that buyer disappeared. Yeah.
So what had happened was after all the open houses and all the traction, the media that we had it open on the market for bidding, right? So we had it up for 5 days. I think we had, I'm going back now, I think we had 5 offers. One offer, of course, which was the one that we took. The guy had 5 days conditions to get his everything together. And that buyer who had the best price ended up backing out because he couldn't get a cosigner. Something happened there. And a lot of people thought that it was because CMHC or the bank wouldn't finance it or anything like this. It was actually the exact opposite. So when we put this up on the market, we actually called CMHC and we pre-approved the property before putting it live. So that any buyer that came in that said, "Oh, we're not sure if we can get financing on this," we already had the answer, right? So we went to the underwriter level and we said, "Look, this is what we have. It's very unique. What do you think about this?" And they're like, "Yep, we think it's good as long as the borrower can qualify." So we're like, "Wow, that's amazing." Because CMHC either has a very, very low minimum square footage or none at all. One of the two. I think it's none at all. And the challenge then became the bank. The bank would only give mortgages if CMHC insured it, which is completely backwards because banks have minimum square footages, not CMHC. So that was a bit of a background on financing. And in terms of the actual offer itself, the first guy couldn't get the cosigner to qualify. Something happened, so he fell off. And then the second guy came in at a slightly lower purchase price, but he came in all cash.
Right. But also the first guy kind of ghosted you. He ghosted everyone, did he not?
No, he didn't ghost us at all.
Oh, okay.
No, he didn't ghost us at all. The deal just didn't work out. There was something to do with the cosigner, family or something like that. He had to bring family on and couldn't get it. So it's too bad.
Got it.
Yeah.
Can you remind us what the square footage was of the tiny home?
253.
What a world.
Minimum square footage for Ontario Building Code, I believe, is 140 square feet plus a bathroom for a single family home.
I didn't know it was that small.
Very small. Yeah.
Because, for example, in St. Catharines, they have a maximum of like six something square feet. I think it's like 600 square feet maximum for a basement suite.
Really?
Like, why are you putting maximums?
Oh, wow.
Why can't I use the entire basement?
Yeah. There's like a dead corner that nobody can access in there.
Essentially, that's what has to happen.
Your maximum.
Yeah. You have to create a storage room and put like a lock on it. That's the workaround. And these things are funny. Yeah. Actually, we're speaking about workarounds. Can we talk to the addition that you did?
Yep.
Have you done it? How many additions have you done?
So I've only really done one. It was the coach house that we built in Oshawa. That, I guess you classify that as an addition. So just one. Yeah.
Can you share the story? How you got that approved by the city?
So that one, there was a flip that actually went sideways on us. The builder next door, we were on a dead end street, and the builder next door had this green field, and it had sat there for years and years and years and years and years. So I bought this house thinking, okay, I'm going to flip this thing. Nice little bungalow, everything's good. And then, like, just as we went to put this newly finished bungalow up on the market, they started ripping up like old foundations, and the excavators, and the dirt and the dust was all over. And there was like piles of concrete and rebar and stuff like that in the field. And of course, the view at the kitchen window was looking right at this field. Well, nobody wants to move in next to that, knowing that there's going to be construction forever, right? Building towers and all.
That's not a violation at all? Any sort of city ordinance or nothing? Bylaw, nothing?
No, they had their permits, and like they're just working.
Right. Right. It's temporary.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay.
So it sucks for me because I'm like, okay, well, now I got this house that looks really good, crown molding and quartz counters and all that stuff. And that kind of a buyer is never going to want to live next to this construction site, knowing that, okay, they're putting multifamily residential. It's going to be a construction site for years. It's on a major intersection, all this. It was a mess. So because the basement was low in this particular house, I started running all these different calculations as to what can I do to save this investment from me losing like a ton of money, right? So I kept it. I sat on it for 6 months, kicked it back and forth in my head for a while. And meanwhile, I'm thinking, should I do an addition? Should I jack the house up, put a basement apartment in? Should I do a top-up renovation? What should I do? So in this case, it was a slab on grade addition that I did out the back to give the effect of a secondary dwelling in the backyard and still to meet the compliance of zoning with the city.
So why the choice to do that over excavate basement or top up?
Cost, rental value after we were done, overall rent generated as well. So when I did this, I think it was 2 years ago that I did it. The cost for me to put up the addition was obviously more than to finish what would be a normal basement apartment. But by the time I factor in the value when the house was done and the rent that it was going to generate after the renovation was done, and all the time and stuff like this, and even some of the market share, because it's gone out to the market and people are interested in that stuff, it made more sense to do this slab on grade addition and make it feel as much like a coach house as possible, so that we could still get that effect and generate the best rents and a number of other tenant related solutions as well. But it was predominantly for rents. Yeah.
So I know I've asked you this. I asked you that before when you were on previously, but I'm bringing it up again because I think it's going to be a big part of people's strategy going forward.
Yep.
is to be building additions, coach houses. There's like a bajillion names. It's hilarious because you read the article that came out of Kitchener. I think it was Kitchener, and they've listed all the names: garden suite, nanny suite. I don't know, whatever else. Like, there's no one name for this thing.
Yeah.
Tiny house. They call it tiny house too.
Do they?
Yeah, like they literally list them all out. These will all be allowed.
Wow. That's good. I think there's opportunity there. I really do. You know,
that's why I'm surprised you haven't done another one yet.
Well, it's zoning. So I tried. I didn't want to have to attach to the house. I wanted 2 detached homes on one lot, and they're like, absolutely not. But like I say, St. Catharines is coming around. I know Port Hope and Coburg. You can do them out there. I think you can do them in Belleville. I think Guelph. I was talking to Michelle Gauthier, who you know, and she was saying that some of the subdivisions in Guelph right now are being purpose built with services run to the back of the property, so that at some point you can build what would effectively look like a detached garage, but it's living quarters, and the services are already there, so you can hook up. So we're coming around.
So progressive.
Yes.
I remember when the electrician was in my home updating the panel in my home, he was telling me how new building code requires an electric outlet in your garage for electric car as well. Like, that's how progressive things are. That's impressive.
Yeah.
He's like, I asked him how much. He's like $1,000 to $2,000 to retrofit my home for it. I'm like, I think I'm okay. Now I kind of regret it. I probably should have done it. It might be a resale thing going forward.
Maybe, yeah. That could be a huge opportunity for an electrician going around retrofitting homes when electric cars become the biggest thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Electrician. Good trade. Good trade to get into. Like, Tesla's taken off. As I was talking to my wife about Tesla the other day, like, if you go to the mall parking lot where they have all the charging stations, it's almost all Teslas.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost like it's like Kleenex, right? It's facial tissue. That's Kleenex is a brand.
Yeah.
Tesla's almost taken over as like the brand for electronic cars.
It's true.
So can you share some numbers on the what do you call it? You called it a coach house?
Yep.
So it's slab on grade. How thick is the slab?
So you're still excavating as if you were a normal house. So you got to dig a trench, right? That's at least 4 feet deep below the frost line. You got to dig a trench, pour your footings, build your foundation walls up to grade, right? It's just the center of that house isn't an actual basement. It's just dirt, or in this case, it was stone. And then you bring it up to grade, and then you level it off with concrete, just the same way you would backfill into a basement.
Fascinating. You fill it with stone, though. It wasn't stone when you found it.
Yeah. So, I mean, we left, I would say, about half the dirt inside the hole. And then whatever you excavate, if it's dirt, you can't put it back in the hole, because over time dirt settles, but stone does not, right? So you take out the dirt, you do what you got to do, and then anything that you've disturbed, you put stone back in its place.
Right.
Yeah.
And then how big was your coach house? Square footage?
What, 850 square feet?
850 square feet. How tall were the ceilings?
9 foot.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was intentional? Like, you wanted something more grand?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The cost to go 8 foot versus 9 foot, especially in a smaller footprint area. Not that 850 is small compared to a tiny house, but like
compared to Toronto condo. Like,
I know.
That's a Toronto condo. That'd be 850,000 at least, or like around there somewhere.
So, oh yeah. Well, yeah, you're like $1,000 a square foot, right?
Yeah.
So that extra 1 foot of ceiling height makes it so much nicer.
Yeah.
I held a seminar in there. You probably knew that. I held a seminar in there like a year ago, and it was great. People came in and had a look, and that extra 1 foot of ceiling height just makes it feel so much bigger. Yeah.
Could you put a dollar on it? How much more you would get in rent
for 9 foot versus 8 foot?
Yeah. Think you can put a dollar on it?
I'm gonna say $100, and that's just a guess, not based on anything. But I'm gonna say $100 a month, because it's gonna be based on the emotion of that person when they walk in and go, "Wow, this is nice."
Because I've never seen that in a rental, unless someone's renting a high-end house.
Yeah. I figure $100, $1,200 a year. It's all right.
And when I say I've never seen that, like, I've seen a lot of houses. In a rental, preface out of the rental. And then what do you think that would cost in today's dollars to create that coach house?
I think, hold on, let me get a calculator here.
Napkin math,
yeah. No,
you get the napkin out.
Calculator math. Just as a guess, maybe 150 grand.
Yeah, that's my guess too.
Just as a guess. It's so site specific, but
Yeah. How easy can you access it with this machinery and stuff? And
yeah. Do you have to truck the dirt away? What are you building in the winter versus the summer? All these things.
And then what did you rent it for?
That one was rented for, I think it was 1,500 or 1,650, one or the other. Which 2 years ago when I did this was like top market rent.
Do you think you get more today?
I think so. Yeah.
Would you do this to like all your houses if you could?
If you buy right, yeah. I mean, it's like I was saying, it's site specific. So if you get a lot that's conducive to doing this, right, and you have the wherewithal and the financing and things like that, yeah, throwing a house behind a house, you make it rent. So for sure.
So coming from someone who's not educated on the subject, I would be investigating all my properties if they could just crane a modular home behind my house.
that too. That's a big business for some companies out there. If you just hop on a Google and say like, ship a container home or whatever, right? There are prefab homes that people can float in. Now, the challenge with those, and I'll be totally upfront, and this is why I built it instead of floated it in. By the time you service that thing back there, dig it up, you still have to pour a foundation, you still need your permits, you still need grading and site specific zoning and things like this. Like you still need a lot of periphery before you actually get a structure onto the site. So people that are like, oh yeah, I'm going to put this thing back here for like 80 grand. I'm like, no, you're not, right? It's not going to happen, and even when they bring that thing in, you still have to drop it down. You still got to assemble it and do all that stuff. So it's not as cheap as what the media portrays.
Right. No, I just had my friend Kosh on. You might want to listen to that episode. Yeah, heck, you can meet Kosh. Have you met Kosh?
No, I never have.
Oh, okay. So he just did it in St. Catharines.
Yes, maybe I have. I have met him. Yes.
He's good friends with Quentin, so you may have run into him in the east.
Yes.
So he just did a modular home, and the per square foot was not cheap, but he was able to order it and have it delivered in a month.
Yeah, send it.
Right. So time savings.
Absolutely.
And just you don't have to that's a strategy for your 4-hour work week.
You don't have to manage it.
Yeah, you don't have to manage it.
Yeah,
it's all built in a facility it's basically manufactured, right? It's built in a manufacturing facility and process, and they'd assemble it. But again, it took a month to from order to delivery.
Yep. That's amazing. Now, did he have to do all of his foundations and that beforehand?
Of course. Yeah. Because he's doing a basement suite.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. Anytime you want to come see it, just let him know.
I'd love to.
We actually have a tour booked. We have a tour planned for it pretty soon. Once it's finished, we just had one last weekend. While it was in the process of being finished up on the inside, he still he basically had all the rough-ins done for the basement suite.
Yep. But
it still has to be finished.
Yeah.
But even like that, I'm sure you could appreciate just to have your rough-ins done for the basement suite.
Oh yeah.
Like when it's delivered.
Yep.
Right. Much better than having to go break up the floor yourself and install new plumbing.
Well, even when Quentin D'Souza did his prefab, they poured the foundation, put all the rough-ins in, dropped the house on top, and then he came in with his normal crew and finished the basement apartment. I believe same idea. Yeah.
Well, they're friends, so I'm sure they shared notes. It's good to have good friends in real estate.
Yeah.
So what else are you doing that's wild?
Wild?
That's stuff that you can talk about.
Yeah. It's like Fort Knox, man. What's wild? Nothing too wild. We got a lot of really good projects on the go right now. I think we got 9 open job sites. We got some new construction, but I want to scale out the wholesaling side. I'm really noticing that I've got to break down my business into buckets. And for a lot of people listening, think about this for yourself. Like break down your business into buckets. If you want to be a realtor, or if you want to be a developer or a builder or a contractor or you can only do so much in one bucket before, in my opinion, and in my situation, the management becomes too heavy to get to the next step. So for me, it's been better to branch off into something else than it is to push through that barrier. Right. So for example, I can only do so many flips before I need to bring on a full-time manager to manage that. And I can only let's just use 5 and 15 flips a year as a rough number to ballpark. Right. So for example, if you do 5 flips a year, by the time you scale up and you want to go more and do more, if you want to go to 15, you need to get a manager in there, right? But that manager is going to cost you X amount per year, right? And it's going to detract from your overall margins. So I've
It'll
noticed
probably cost you like 2 flips to pay that person.
Probably, exactly. Yeah. So I've noticed for me that at some point it doesn't make sense to scale certain things. So I only take it to that level where the efficiency is maximized, and then I go on to something else. Right. So that's what's coming up for me, and in this case, it's going to be wholesaling. So really looking forward to doing that for 2020.
That's actually good. That's actually a good segue in for the conversation around being a full-time investor, because who sources deals for your real estate business?
Right now, it's me, and I love doing that. I really do. I mean, I don't handle the mailers and the signs and all that stuff. That gets passed off to my right hand. Her name is Melissa, and she's actually leaving. I think you knew that. And I've got somebody. Oh no.
No.
So Melissa, my operations lady, is leaving, and we found somebody new to replace her, which is awesome. I'm really excited about it. So she handles a lot of the logistics side of things, but actually going to see these properties and meeting the sellers and putting the deal together is something that I do genuinely enjoy doing, because you can A, help people, and B, the deal is what I like to do. So right now it's me, and then I let that filter out to the construction side, and they put together all the bricks and sticks.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then for the person who doesn't know what wholesaling means, can you explain that?
Yeah, so wholesaling, it would be the art of finding an off-market property not listed on the MLS and oftentimes not for sale, and just digging up leads and people that maybe have some financial issues or maintenance and repair issues with their home, and buying that property off-market, mm-hmm. and then turning it over to somebody who maybe wants to flip it or keep it as a buy and hold, or maybe you close on it yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you think the ratio is like between wholesale versus you keep?
For me, I would keep pretty well everything. Truthfully. So I wholesaled a few deals last week, and we did really, really well on them. Right. So after that happened, I was like, ooh, maybe it makes more sense to just pass a few of these deals off, right, and let somebody else do the work, since some of my other buckets are full. So that was kind of the basis for why we're doing it, mm-hmm. and where we're going moving forward.
And this is all in Oshawa or
Durham? A lot of Durham.
All Durham. Okay.
All Durham, and I want to push forward. I want to push forward east as well. I think there's opportunities moving east, like we just talked about, and mm-hmm. Durham, Oshawa, Bowmanville is kind of my two predominant markets, which is where I like to do a lot of the stuff. But anything that comes up in Durham, I definitely evaluate on a case-by-case basis.
Amazing. Yeah. And then, do you want people to reach out to you for wholesale opportunities?
I'd love that. Yeah, go to my website, rwcarinvestment.com. Maybe we can link it up in the show notes. There's a contact page there. Just fill it in if you want to get on the wholesale buyers list. And anytime I get a deal, I'll fire it out.
Amazing. I do want people to know how this isn't just like magic, that these deals fall in your lap.
Yeah, this takes work. Like, work. There's other.
It's not a 4-hour work week.
It's like, it's way more than a full-time job. And I always laugh because I remember one time I went to the dentist, and I was just working like crazy hours, and I went there and I'm laying in the chair, and I'm just going, oh wow, this is nice, this is relaxing. And if going to the dentist, getting your teeth drilled is relaxing, like there's a problem. You know what I mean?
That's the exact same thing at my dentist.
Oh, like, really? Oh my God.
I'm not allowed to touch my phone. This is nice.
Yeah.
while they're picking at my teeth, and and there's blood everywhere.
Crazy, right?
At least I can shut my mind off for a little bit.
It's funny.
No one's expecting me to have any output. No, I'm not supposed to be productive at all in this time.
Yeah. It takes work. 4-hour work week is great, but you got to find an industry that can happen in. Lending money, I think, is one of those things. If you got all your leads, you don't have to do any marketing. But in terms of active real estate, it's a job. Straight up.
What else are you up to?
What else am I up to?
Hang on.
Okay, give me a direction. I could go all day.
I know. I don't know if you shared this story before. Can you share the house that you bought with the drug dealer?
The drug dealer.
Didn't the house burn down?
Oh yeah. I usually give names to all my houses. This one was burnt house, dead guy. So we bought this house, and it was a drug dealer that owned it. And he fell asleep with some kind of a crack pipe, hash pipe, something like that. and he scorched the back half of the house right off. So when I heard that, I'm like, this is amazing, right? So we bought that house, we fixed it up, we did a flip, and as we were working on it, there's people still coming up to the door, like, hey, you know, like scratching at their necks. We're like, is Peter here? We're like, oh my God, what are we doing here? Right? It was quite the operation, but man, like opportunities come from all kinds of avenues, and in this case, the burnt house drug dealer, you know, problem was just one of those things that we buy, you know.
How happy were the neighbors that you fixed that one up and flipped it, or you kept it?
Yeah, we fixed and flipped it. The neighbors were thrilled because, I mean,
of course,
you got a drug dealer burning house on your street, right? Like, let's do something with this. So we were those people, and actually, we ended up in the newspaper for that.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, first for a bad reason, and then for a great one. They thought that we were the bad people, and I'm like, no, you guys got it all wrong. We're here to fix.
Did they update? Because they said bad things about you in the paper. They thought you were like a slumlord.
They did. They slammed me. The city showed up because they, like, on closing day, the drug dealer guy left garbage all the way from the front door across the boulevard out to the street, like just garbage everywhere. So for whatever reason, when this guy left, it was like a day or two after closing, and the city calls me up and they're like, if you don't come and clean up your garbage, we're going to put it on your tax roll. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? So I go down there.
Yeah, we just closed. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I just closed. Now I'm the guy on title, right? So I just closed. So I go down there, and these people are just like, oh my God, slamming me back and forth. You drug lord, scum lord. Oh my God. I'm like, no, you guys got this all wrong. So I ended up on the front page of the Oshawa newspaper. Like, I forget what it even said. If you Google like Ryan Carr, I don't know what it was. Ryan Carr, fixer up. Ryan Carr. It'll come to me. Like Ryan Carr, drug lord house, or I don't know, some terrible thing, right? It'll come up, and it's like deadbeat landlord, you know, doesn't respect the city and leaves his garbage all over the thing. So I called the newspaper guy. I'm like, what the hell, man? Like, I just took over on this thing, and we're actually going to fix it up. And he came out and he did a nice piece, and he made right, which was nice. So
what city was what news outlet was it?
It was I believe it was the Oshawa Express. Or maybe it was Durham. Maybe it's Durham. The good article was in the Durham newspaper. But this guy was a crime reporter.
And everything's all tiny house.
We did get a lot of press on that.
Let's talk about the tiny house for a little bit.
Yeah.
You received quite a bit of hate over it.
Oh, man. So much hate. So much hate.
You didn't do anything wrong. You're just selling a house.
I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy. Yeah, I don't know.
Who would have done anything different? I would have given it away. Like, what? Really?
Yeah, it was so bad. I mean, at about halfway through the sales process, I checked. We had over 100,000 hits on Facebook, right? Through myself and the realtor and different news networks and things like that. It was all over. Right? We were on 5 major news channels: BNN, Bloomberg, CBC News, so Global. All these guys. We were in the Toronto Star, and like everybody was praising this, except for the haters on Facebook, Instagram, and all this.
And YouTube. So, like, YouTube was bad.
Of course, YouTube, the whole bit.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, this guy ripping people off and this, and I'm like, where do you find a house? It sold for $200,000.
Yeah.
Where do you
find land?
On dirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you find the dirt for $200,000? Never mind with something on it serviced.
Because people seem to mistake the fact that it's on land. Like, oh, I could buy that for $20,000. Like, not on land.
Yeah. Where are you gonna park that thing, bro? Like,
yeah. It's
like,
on service. It's a serviced house on land.
Fully,
it comes with a lot.
Right. Exactly.
It comes with a driveway. You own
on
land.
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy.
They obviously have no idea because they don't understand that real estate is not the house. It's the land is a big part of it.
It is. Just finding dirt to build on, period, for an infill development can be challenging depending on where you live, right? Yeah. And Oshawa land comes at a premium. Same with your way, and we took a lot of heat on that one for no reason.
For example, I was talking to my friend who does. Just like friends of ours, they'll take a house on a 50-foot lot, tear it down, and build 2 houses that are like they'll build semis.
Yeah, semis.
Each lot's like 25 foot frontage. My understanding is a tear down these days is worth about like 1.3 in Toronto. Yeah. Oh, and you'll like this. If you have the paperwork for the sever already, 1.5 is the asking.
Oh, yeah.
Now builders are interested because actually people selling are interested for 1.5.
Well, sure.
Versus in St. Catharines, Koch, he thinks his lot value 37 and a half by 150. Lot value is like 110. Right?
Yeah.
So as a rental investor, like that sounds good. I'd buy that piece of land. Gee,
absolutely.
To build a duplex on.
Sure. Sure.
Where else should we go? Give me some more names. Give me some more names for properties.
Names for properties.
You said you give every house a name.
I try to. Every house has a story, right? So whenever I'm out there looking for wholesale deals, like every house has a story, and that's usually my first line. So for anybody listening, the number one thing to say to a seller when you walk into a house is, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what's the story here? And then shut your mouth and wait for them to talk, right? Because there's always the craziest shit that comes out. Like I can never even guess where the story is going to go.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes it's a family situation. Sometimes it's debt. Sometimes it's a cat pee house. I don't know how many cat pee houses I've owned. Like I just wholesale a cat pee house. I didn't even give it a name. It just stunk so bad, right? It was so bad that they were ripping up the floors and the cat pee actually rotted through the vents, right? So these are the kinds of things that when you ask what's the story here, that's where these things go, right? You just never know. So
were the cats urinating in the vents?
They had 50 cats.
Oh my god! So the volume of liquid just was going to the lowest point.
Lots of pee, lots of cat pee.
So disgusting. What's the story here?
What's the story here?
You're perfectly normal, aren't you?
Yeah, your eyeballs are burning, right? You're like, what's the story here? As if you don't know.
What would the appraiser say to that? Would a Schedule A banks finance this?
Dude, they would never pick that up. I got a house right now.
They wouldn't want that on the books.
I got a house right now. The sump pump was unplugged, and somebody ripped all the wires out of the house. Right? There's 6 inches of water in the basement, and it's frozen, so you could skate down there. Right? Hey, what's the story here? Right? Oh,
did you buy it?
Of course.
The foundation was okay with frozen 6 inches of water?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It was okay?
Yeah, everything's fine. It's a sump pump issue.
Okay.
Right? The wires got all messed up and the pump is upside down now. And there's no heat. Right? It froze.
I've heard a story where, like for example, when a house was caught fire and then the fire department just dumps water on it, right? They gotta get that fire. You can't have that fire transferred to the neighbor's house, right?
That's right.
So you gotta do what you gotta do, right? But I've heard issues where just the amount of water in the basement, the pressure can crack the foundation.
I'm sure it could. Absolutely. I haven't heard that myself, but I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. You ever had that? You ever had a house that was burnt down that you bought?
Well,
not yet, eh?
Burnt house, dead guy, but that one was still kind of standing.
Oh, what'd you do with it? Did you tear it the rest down?
We flipped it. So what happened was he fell asleep in the back half of the house, right? And then it caught fire and went up. And they were able to catch it just as I believe the fire was starting to protrude through the drywall. So I think the roof had been scorched, and we were able to fix that stuff up. And then within the walls, it was more water damage and smoke damage than fire. But the outside of the house was just like melted off, like a popsicle on the asphalt, just melted. So we did a lot of exterior work as well.
Did you have to get like engineering reports done or anything for insurance purposes? Nothing.
No, it was good. It was okay.
Oh, it was considered cosmetic.
It was a lot of cosmetics, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Because we've done deals on houses where I've seen a lot of houses that have been significant house fires. So a lot of burnt foundations. And actually, we were doing a property tour in St. Catharines, and the entire base is a wood frame house. So all the wood had been painted, like spray painted silver or something, right? And usually when I see that, it's because they had a fire.
Yeah.
And that's how they clean it up and look.
Smoke paint. Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's how they get rid of the smell.
Oh, it's for smell. Not just, I thought just, no one wants to see it, carbon covered wood.
Yeah.
Like, it raises questions.
It does. Anytime you see a house fully peeled open, it's either for mold or for smoke. and they'll paint it white with like an oil-based synthetic shellac or something like that to get rid of that smell. Yeah.
Interesting. So lesson for the listener, if you ever see that, that's what it is.
There it is.
And then we've had to have, it's actually handy because one time there had been a fire in the attic. It's not visible. The home inspector found it when he stuck his head up in the attic hatch. But because we used a home inspector who's an engineer, he could write the letter right on the spot.
Yeah.
That he okayed it, so we could give that to an insurance company.
Nice.
Yeah. No,
that's good.
We're just dropping knowledge bombs, aren't we?
Knowledge bombs, mind grenades.
So Ryan, thanks so much for doing this. Any final words you want to share? Maybe of your website. Maybe for someone who's on the fence but going full time.
My advice to be full time is keep your job until you can make the jump. Too many people do it too soon, and it completely ruins their chances. So keep your job. Do as much real estate as you can while you have that job. And then when you're ready, then make the jump, but don't do it too early. Yeah.
Which website do you want to promote?
rwcarinvestment.com.
What are you looking for mostly? People to sign up for your wholesale list?
Yeah, buyer's list. Go there. There's a contact page. Put your name and your email and all that stuff in, and send me a quick note, and I'll add you to the database. And anytime that we get a property that fits that criteria, we'll fire it out, and you guys will see it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing. And how's your stock hacking going?
My stock hacking, man. So I watched your webinar last night, the first half hour, 40 minutes, and it wasn't working, right? So I'm like, okay, well, I'll catch up with you next time. But I've been doing the paper trading account. That's been cool. I think I've got a lot to learn before I fund it, right? And maybe you can show me a few things next time you tag up.
So 2 things was, you know what, fixed the Zoom problem. I updated the app. It's like, oh, why didn't I think of that? Yeah. So actually some people stuck around. So I actually did it then and there.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So we're doing it again tonight at 8 p.m.
Great. Very cool.
If you can make it, same coordinates. There was an email that went out. I don't think you're on it, but same coordinates, 8 p.m. tonight.
Okay. Are you going to record that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
I don't think I can make it tonight, but I'm sure whatever knowledge you're going to give out is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. I had some more mature students too who've been traded as long as I have, and they picked up on things. I goofed though because I actually exposed my account number, so I can't put that out there. So I need to reshoot it anyways.
Sure. You know what I love about that, the whole stock hacking and interactive brokers and all this? There's no moving parts. There's no management. There's no people. There's no skilled trades. There's nothing. Right? You do your research, you read the charts, you learn the information. Obviously, you take the classes, right, that you guys are doing, and like after you're done your trade, that's it. There's no follow up. You watch every day and you make sure that you're on track. And I think that's really cool. So for your 4-hour work week listeners, that would be the ticket there, right?
Yeah, you're gonna like this.
Do a little bit of that, right? I'm
actually gonna laugh and watch and see how fast you fund your account.
Yeah,
and then how big your increments are.
All right.
Yeah, someone in the same class as you has done 2 fundings already of 6 figures each.
No way.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Awesome. All right. Thanks again for doing this, Ryan. And just hang on. I'm just gonna turn off the recording.
Okay.